You know, after spending nearly a quarter century in the trenches of corporate America, I thought I'd seen it all. Boardroom politics, hostile takeovers, backstabbing colleagues. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could prepare me for the day my own son-in-law stripped me of my title and dignity in a single, ruthless stroke. I'm Mark Reynolds, and my story isn't just about corporate drama. It's about family betrayal, pride lost, and a moment frozen in time that I still replay in my head. Let me take you back to where it all started. Titan Global wasn't just my employer, it was my second home, my legacy. When I first walked through those glass doors, I was a wide-eyed kid fresh from a small state university with a degree in business administration and a dream to make a difference. I had no connections, no silver spoon, just a burning desire to prove myself. Over the years, I earned my stripes. From grunt analyst to senior corporate strategist, I climbed that ladder rung by rung, each step marked by late nights, tough negotiations, and sacrifices my family hardly understood. I wasn't just working for a paycheck, I was building something I believed in. Titan Global was a company that had once been on the brink of collapse, but thanks to some bold decisions and relentless effort, we'd turned it around. I had a hand in every major project, every deal that brought us closer to becoming an international powerhouse. I was proud, hell, I was damn proud, of my contributions. Then came Ryan. My daughter brought him home one evening, and I thought, hey, this kid's got potential. Ryan was young, confident, and sharp, smart enough to play the game and ambitious enough to want to win it. Over the months, I tried to mentor him, gave him the benefit of my experience, hoping he'd fit into the family, and maybe even the company, smoothly. But looking back, I realize now that Ryan was playing a different game all along. When Ryan was promoted to CEO, it hit me like a gut punch. The board favored his flashy ideas and younger perspective. I understood that. The company needed fresh blood, they said, but what they didn't say out loud was how quickly that fresh blood would want to clean house, and that I'd be the first to go. The day of the demotion started like any other Monday. I woke up early in my modest suburban home, brewed my usual black coffee, and reviewed a stack of documents for a strategy meeting later that week. I dressed carefully, my navy blue suit pressed just right, my favorite tie knotted tight. I even gave my reflection a nod, telling myself, Mark, you've earned every inch of this. You're still a player here. But when I stepped through the doors of Titan Global that morning, the air felt different. Tense. I chalked it up to Monday blues and headed to my office. Then came the call. Mark, the CEO wants to see you immediately. That voice from HR was clinical, stripped of any warmth. No explanation, just urgency. As I walked down the gleaming corridor toward Ryan's office, my mind raced. Was there a problem with a client? Had something gone wrong on my watch? I tried to steady myself, running through every possibility, none of which prepared me for what I was about to face. Ryan was seated behind his oversized mahogany desk, exuding that new CEO confidence that's part arrogance, part charm. The HR director stood silently beside him, clutching a crisp envelope. Without a word, Ryan motioned for me to sit. I obeyed, heart pounding. Then came the moment that would shatter everything. Ryan slid the envelope across the desk, his lips curling into a smirk I still haven't forgotten. I opened it slowly, unfolding a letter that was as cold and brutal as steel. Effective immediately, it read. Mark Reynolds is reassigned to the position of janitor. I blinked, reread the words, thinking maybe my eyes were deceiving me. Janitor? After 20-plus years of dedication, thousands of hours strategizing and closing deals, I was to become the company's janitor? Is this some kind of joke? I asked, voice trembling. Ryan leaned back, arms crossed, the smirk deepening. No joke, Mark. It's a new era at Titan Global. You're no longer part of the strategic team. We need fresh perspectives. And frankly, you're a liability now. I wanted to shout, to call out the hypocrisy, to remind him that I helped build the empire he just stepped into. But I was trapped by shock, by disbelief, and by the fact that the entire executive floor had gathered outside Ryan's office, watching the spectacle unfold through the glass walls. I could feel their eyes on me, a mix of disbelief, pity, and awkward curiosity. The whispers started softly, then grew louder. Someone gasped, a few exchanged uneasy glances. The office that had once respected me was now silently condemning me. Ryan didn't stop there. He stood and gestured toward a janitor's uniform folded neatly on a chair nearby. "Here's your new uniform. You'll start tomorrow." I felt my chest tighten, my throat dry. The man who was supposed to be family, the man I'd welcomed into my home, dined with, trusted, had just humiliated me in the cruelest way possible. And for what? To assert power? To prove a point? I grabbed the letter, my hands shaking, and left the office. As I walked back through the halls, I felt every step echo with betrayal. My colleagues avoided eye contact, unsure whether to console me or distance themselves. I heard snippets of conversations. "Poor Mark. Did you see what Ryan did? That's cold." But amidst the pain, a fire ignited inside me. I realized that this moment, as devastating as it was, wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a reckoning, because a title doesn't make a man, and no one, not even family, can take away your resolve. That day my world changed forever, but I swore to myself that I'd come back stronger, smarter, and with a plan that no one, not even Ryan, could ignore. After the crushing blow of being demoted by my own son-in-law Ryan, I could have easily crumbled. But business waits for no one, and the gears of Titan Global kept turning fast, whether I liked it or not. What Ryan didn't know was that I was about to close the biggest deal in the company's history, a staggering $88 million contract with some of the most influential investors in Dubai. This wasn't just any contract. This was the kind of deal that could catapult our company onto the global stage, redefine our growth trajectory, and secure my legacy as a strategist who could deliver when it mattered most. The road to this point hadn't been easy. Over the past year, I had poured every ounce of my energy and experience into building relationships with key players in the Middle East. It's a region known for cautious but lucrative investment, where trust and respect mean everything, and deals can take months or even years to finalize. I had spent endless hours on video calls, flying back and forth at Dubai, navigating complex cultural nuances, and negotiating terms that balanced opportunity with risk. These partners weren't just interested in numbers. They wanted assurances about leadership, stability, and long-term vision. This conference room in the heart of Dubai was sleek, modern, and intimidating, with walls made entirely of glass, offering a panoramic view of the sprawling city below. The Burj Khalifa loomed in the distance, a towering symbol of ambition and innovation. It felt like a fitting backdrop for what was about to happen. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but charged with possibility. Around the glossy table sat representatives from 3 major investment firms, each with decades of experience and billions in assets under management. There was Ahmed, the firm's lead negotiator, a sharp-minded man with a piercing gaze who had made a fortune in energy deals. Beside him was Layla, a seasoned financial analyst known for her no-nonsense approach and deep understanding of emerging markets. And then there was Fareed, a younger executive, but no less influential, who was known for pushing aggressive growth strategies. We started with formalities, polite introductions, exchanged business cards, light small talk about the city, the weather, and the future of tech. But I could feel the eyes on me, assessing, measuring my confidence, my knowledge, my commitment. These folks didn't just invest money, they invested trust, and trust wasn't given lightly. I launched into my presentation, walking them through Titan Global's vision for the next 5 years, focusing on our cutting-edge technology, our plans for regional expansion, and the solid ROI we projected. I highlighted our recent successes, our robust client pipeline, and the competitive advantages that set us apart. I was meticulous, clear, and passionate, but also grounded in data. I knew these investors valued facts and foresight over hype. The negotiation that followed was the real test. Questions came fast and hard. They challenged our valuations, scrutinized our risk management, and demanded clarity on how we plan to navigate geopolitical uncertainties in the region. I answered honestly, never overpromising, but always steering the conversation back to the strengths of our strategy and the solidity of our team. At one point, Ahmed leaned forward, his voice low and deliberate. "Mr. Reynolds, your proposal is ambitious, but given recent leadership changes at Titan, can you assure us that the company's direction won't shift unexpectedly? Stability is key for us." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I knew exactly what he was hinting at. Ryan's new role, the shakeup that had rocked our leadership just days ago. But I stayed composed. "Mr. Ahmed," I said, locking eyes with him, "I understand your concerns, and that's why I'm personally committed to this deal. My focus is laser sharp on ensuring that Titan Global delivers on its promises, regardless of any internal changes. I am the strategist behind this initiative, and I will see it through." The room fell silent for a beat. Then Layla nodded, impressed by my candidness. "That's reassuring, Mr. Reynolds. It's clear you have a strong handle on this." Hours passed as we hammered out final terms. Payment schedules, milestones, equity shares. The weight of the moment settled on my shoulders, but I felt a surge of pride and relief. This deal wasn't just about the money. It was about proving my worth, reaffirming my value to a company that had just tried to write me off. When the contracts were finally printed and laid out on the table, the air was thick with anticipation. I reached out my hand to Ahmed, ready to shake on it and officially seal the deal. The moment I had worked toward for months. What Ryan didn't know was that right then, in that very room, I was about to change everything for Titan Global, and for myself. The conference room was an arena of power and expectation. Floor-to-ceiling windows wrapped around us, revealing the sprawling Dubai skyline, a shimmering tapestry of glass towers and desert heat. The sunlight bounced off the Burj Khalifa's steel spire, cutting through the blue sky like a sword, and the distant hum of a city racing forward matched the pulse in my veins. This was the stage for the biggest deal Titan Global had ever pursued, $88 million, a contract that could redefine our company's footprint globally. I sat at the head of the sleek mahogany table, my tailored navy suit feeling both familiar and oddly distant. Around me were faces that represented wealth, influence, and intricate networks of business empires. Ahmed, the chief negotiator for the Dubai Investment Consortium, his expression calm but eyes sharp and measuring. Layla, a savvy partner from London, known for her shrewd instincts. Fareed, a financier from Riyadh, whose silence carried as much weight as any words, and other representatives whose combined presence made this deal monumental. For months, I had been the linchpin of this negotiation, navigating legal labyrinths, cultural nuances, and countless back and forths, all while balancing the internal politics of Titan Global. I'd poured everything into this, late nights, weekends, endless calls across time zones. And now, finally, it was time to close. The contract lay before us, every clause painstakingly crafted, every number double-checked. As I extended my hand toward Ahmed for the handshake, a symbol of sealed trust and mutual commitment, I felt a sudden tap on my arm. It was Lisa, my assistant, who had been quietly observing everything, taking notes, handling logistics, making sure nothing went wrong. Her eyes darted nervously around the room, her voice dropping to a breathy whisper meant only for me. "Sir, your title was changed. You're now Janitor." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Janitor? What in the world? I blinked, confused, as if the words themselves didn't belong in this room, this moment, this narrative of success I was building. Lisa's face was tight with worry, but her eyes held the kind of honesty you only get from someone who's been in the trenches with you. She handed me a folded paper discreetly, and I unfolded it with trembling fingers. There it was, clear as day on the updated organizational chart. Mark Reynolds, Janitor. My mind spun. This was a corporate slap in the face, a family betrayal wrapped in cold executive policy. My son-in-law, fresh in his new role as CEO, promoted just last week, had executed this humiliation without a word to me beforehand. The man I had welcomed into my home, shared meals and holidays with, had wielded his newfound power like a weapon. The room around me didn't stay silent for long. The other executives caught wind of the whisper, their eyes flicking between Lisa and me. Ahmed's expression flickered from professional composure to a subtle mix of disbelief and curiosity. I caught Layla's eyes meeting Fareed's, and I could almost read their unspoken question. Who dares do this? The gravity of the moment was crushing. Here I was, about to close the largest deal of my career, suddenly rendered a laughingstock, a punchline. My very identity in this room, and in the company, had been stripped away in a blink. I could feel the weight of hundreds of eyes silently passing judgment, wondering what kind of man let this happen. But amidst the turmoil inside me, a slow, deliberate clarity emerged. I had two choices: collapse under the humiliation, or stand tall and fight back with every ounce of dignity I had left. Taking a deep breath, I focused on the contract in front of me, the culmination of countless hours and unwavering commitment. I squared my shoulders and met Ahmed's gaze with steady eyes. "Well," I said, my voice calm but resolute, "titles don't close deals. Commitment, trust, and vision do." I paused, letting the words settle in the room. Regardless of what a piece of paper says, the value of this contract, the opportunities it opens, and the partnerships we've forged speak louder than any title. Lisa gave me a small, reassuring nod. I could see the respect in the eyes of some partners growing, not despite the situation, but because of how I handled it. Ahmed cleared his throat, breaking the heavy silence. "Let's take a short recess," he said, his tone both diplomatic and thoughtful. "We'll reconvene in 15 minutes to finalize next steps." As the room slowly emptied, I was left standing there, holding the paper that marked my so-called demotion. I heard hushed conversations ripple across the hallways. "Did you hear? He's the new janitor. Who would dare? That's brutal." But beneath the whispers was an undercurrent of something else. Respect, maybe even sympathy. One of the senior investors, a sharp-minded woman from Frankfurt named Claudia, approached me quietly. She placed a hand lightly on my shoulder and said, "Mark, don't let them define you by a title. That kind of disrespect only reveals their insecurity. You've done the hard work, remember that." Her words echoed in my mind, fortifying the resolve I hadn't known was there. This wasn't just a personal betrayal. It was a power struggle writ large, and I wasn't about to lose. When we gathered again, the atmosphere was different, charged, expectant. The investors looked at me not as the janitor they'd just heard about, but as the leader who'd brought this deal to the table. Lisa caught my eye across the room and mouthed, "We're just getting started." That whispered shock, initially a knife in the back, had now become the spark for what would come next. Right after my assistant whispered that devastating news, "Sir, your title was changed. You're now janitor." The entire room froze. You know that kind of moment when you're standing in a crowded room and it feels like everyone's suddenly holding their breath? That's exactly what happened. The handshake was midair, the smiles were locked in place, and the eyes of every single person at that conference table were on me, on that word, janitor. For a heartbeat, I thought the whole deal was going to fall apart right there in front of me. I mean, this was the biggest contract Titan Global had ever put together. $88 million, the kind of deal that could define my career and this company's future for years to come. And here I was, publicly demoted to something so utterly ridiculous and degrading, it was hard to even process. I could see the partners' expressions flicker from confusion to shock, then to something more complex. There was a pause, thick, almost uncomfortable, and I could tell a few were biting their lips, not wanting to make a scene, but definitely wondering what kind of circus they had just walked into. Ahmed, the lead partner from Dubai, was the first to move. He leaned forward, elbows resting on the gleaming mahogany table, eyes steady and curious, but not mocking. "Mr. Reynolds," he said in a deep, deliberate tone, "this situation is most unusual." I nodded slowly, bracing for a polite dismissal, or maybe a delicate exit strategy from these highly experienced businessmen. But Ahmed didn't back down or change the subject. Instead, he gave a slow, approving nod and added, "However, the true measure of a leader is not what title they hold, but what they bring to the table." It was like a switch flipped in the room. Suddenly, the awkward tension started to dissipate, replaced by something more palpable: respect. Layla, our British partner from London, straightened in her chair and adjusted her glasses, her voice clear and precise. "In my experience, titles are easily changed by those with agendas, but a man's integrity and vision are far more enduring." I glanced around and saw heads nodding almost imperceptibly, a quiet chorus of agreement. Fareed, the reserved but shrewd investor from Riyadh, gave me a slight smile, a rare gesture from someone usually so stoic. "Mr. Reynolds," he said quietly, "we have been watching your work for months now. Your leadership in this deal has been exemplary. No corporate politics can overshadow that." I was taken aback by the genuine warmth and encouragement radiating from these partners, people I had never expected to champion me. It was almost surreal, considering how, moments ago, I was humiliated in front of them. Then Claudia, the German businesswoman who'd been quietly supportive throughout our meetings, chimed in. The company needs strength and integrity at the helm, especially with deals of this magnitude. Mark has shown both. The room seemed to exhale together. That silent, heavy air was replaced by a new energy, a quiet rallying of minds that recognized true leadership beyond the petty family drama unfolding just feet away. And then Fareed said something that stunned me. "Give us 5 minutes," he said firmly. "We want to speak privately." There was a murmur of agreement, and the investors slowly stood, some stretching their legs after the long negotiations, others conferring quietly among themselves. I was left standing by the table, heart pounding, as they moved into a small group in the corner of the room. Though I wasn't invited into their private circle, I could hear fragments of their conversation. "This man has the experience and the drive," Fareed insisted. "His son-in-law might have the title, but he lacks the vision. We can't afford to gamble on nepotism." Claudia's voice, calm but resolute, responded, "The $88 million deal is the largest in Titan Global's history. It's clear that Mark is the one who brought it together. We need stability, not family feuds." Ahmed added, "This is not just about business. It's about trust, and we trust Mark." The words washed over me like a wave of validation. These weren't just polite business partners being polite. They were backing me with their reputations and investments. When they rejoined the table, Ahmed looked directly at me, his gaze unwavering. "Mr. Reynolds, after our discussion, we are unanimous. We want you as the leader of Titan Global. Give us 5 minutes, and you will be the new boss." The partner's statement wasn't loud or flashy. There was no clapping or cheering. Instead, it was a quiet, powerful moment of solidarity, a turning point. I caught my assistant's eye, and she gave me a small, almost relieved smile. The room's energy shifted, charged with possibility. At that moment, I understood this was far more than a business negotiation. It was a declaration, a rebellion against the chaos wrought by family drama. The partners, these seasoned veterans from across the globe, were staking their future on me. I stood taller, heart pounding, ready to face whatever came next. The fight for my dignity and the company's future was just beginning, but with these allies, I wasn't alone. Returning from Dubai, I knew the biggest battle was waiting for me, back at Titan Global's headquarters. The news from the international partners had spread faster than I could have imagined. Somehow, word had reached the boardroom, my son-in-law's abrupt and humiliating demotion of me, followed by the foreign investors' unprecedented declaration of support for me as the rightful leader. The atmosphere inside the boardroom was electric, thick with tension as I stepped in that morning. The executive team was already assembled. The room buzzed with a mixture of disbelief, whispers, and sharp glances. My son-in-law sat at the head of the table, his usual smug expression replaced by something tighter, anxiety, maybe even fear. Around him were the company's top brass, some clearly loyal to him, others visibly uneasy. As I walked in, I could feel the weight of every gaze fixed on me. I wasn't just walking into a room full of colleagues, I was walking into a battlefield. But I wasn't the same man who'd been reduced to a janitor hours before. I carried with me the backing of the company's largest investors, the trust of international partners, and the undeniable success of the Dubai deal. Without hesitation, I addressed the room. "Good morning. I understand there's been a lot of talk since I've been back." I let the silence hang, forcing everyone to acknowledge my presence. "What happened to me yesterday? The demotion, the disrespect? It's not just about me. It's about Titan Global's future. We can't let personal vendettas destroy the company." My son-in-law's jaw tightened, and he opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, one of the senior board members, Helen Mitchell, stood up. She was a no-nonsense woman with decades at the company and a reputation for being brutally honest. "Mark is right," Helen said plainly. "This isn't about family. This is about leadership, vision, and results. And yesterday's stunt was a disgrace." There was a ripple of murmurs, some nodding in agreement, others shifting uncomfortably. The balance of power in that room was shifting visibly. Another board member, Carlos Ramirez, spoke up next. "We've received communication from our partners overseas. They've made it clear they want Mark Reynolds leading Titan Global. This deal in Dubai isn't just a win, it's a game changer." The room started to buzz with tension as alliances became clear. Some executives whispered to one another. Others shot sharp looks at my son-in-law, who was now visibly cornered. I pressed on, feeling the momentum grow. If we want to keep this company thriving, we need stability and trust, not nepotism and power plays. I'm here to offer that. The CEO's chair, once firmly held by my son-in-law, suddenly felt vulnerable. Then came the turning point. The chairman of the board, Richard Thompson, an older man who rarely spoke unless it mattered, cleared his throat and said, "This board must act in the company's best interest. We have the largest investors demanding change, and we cannot ignore their voice." He looked directly at my son-in-law and said, "Effective immediately, we are suspending the CEO's powers until this leadership dispute is resolved." A hush fell over the room. My son-in-law's face went pale, the fight draining from his eyes. Some executives shifted nervously but said nothing. I took a breath and said, "I'm ready to step up, with your support, to lead Titan Global through this critical time." Helen nodded. "The board will convene an emergency meeting to formalize new leadership, but right now, Mark, you have our support." As I left that room, I felt a strange mixture of vindication and responsibility. The company I had devoted years to was on the brink of transformation, and the battle was far from over. But for the first time in weeks, I felt in control of my own future. After weeks of board meetings and investor pressure, the company finally announced their decision. I was appointed the new CEO of Titan Global. Holding the CEO plaque felt like reclaiming my dignity and years of hard work. My son-in-law, who had demoted me, sat defeated in the crowd. Addressing the company, I promised to lead with integrity and transparency, rebuilding trust and reshaping the culture. The international partners from Dubai reached out, reaffirming their support under my leadership. What started as a humiliating demotion became the fuel that pushed me to prove real leadership is earned, not inherited.